Hi, we're here with Tom Malloy. Tom is the author of Bankroll, a book on how to finance your movies. It's a new approach to financing feature films by Tom Malloy. And it's an excellent book. Tom is also a producer and an actor. He's a dancer. And what else? What else do you do?
Gee, I cater the movies as well. No, just kidding.
That would be a good sideline. And you flip houses and
flip houses. Yeah. Quick note: that's the first edition of my book that came out in 2008. The new edition came out in 2012. So the new edition is the brown version. But just FYI, because there was a lot of changes obviously, post 2008, after the banking crisis, so much change in the film industry. So the 2012 version is the most current version of the book.
All right, very cool. The only thing I'm going to ask of you is to, because of our sound issues here today, to try and minimize any noise on the countertops or desktop or anything like that.
Sure. I have this wacky habit, because I play poker all the time, of flipping poker chips while I talk, so I will hold off today as much as it's going to.
That's what I couldn't remember. Was a professional poker player?
Yes, yeah. I have to put these to the side.
Yeah, lock your fingers together.
Exactly. Yeah. All right.
All right. Well, there was a little bit of hiss that might be from my side. I honestly don't know, and I hope that the sound is recording well for our YouTube video. That this will be uploaded to YouTube. Anyway. The class is behind me. They're in a U shape. You won't be able to see everyone. Those behind us, put your hand up if it's okay to record. Excellent. Thank you. Tom, the students here are sophomore to seniors. They're director, producer, actor, writer, cinematographer, editor, animator candidates. Many wear multiple hats. And they're here at the university, and they may seek to move to Hollywood or to Atlanta or to New York or Canada or Bulgaria or wherever the film business is at the time that they're ready to do so. I don't recall. Are you a native New Yorker?
No, originally from Jersey, and then New York City, then Los Angeles.
That's the same thing.
Yeah.
You can't say you're not. If you're from Jersey, it's the same. It's the
exactly kind of, yeah.
but you go back and forth between New York and Los Angeles.
Literally all the time. Yeah, all the
So
time.
a lot of the question or concerns that we've had has been, should I move to LA? If I do, what can I expect? Or should I move to New York? And if I do, what can I expect? Can you, from your perspective, maybe a little bit different, but can you give the students an idea of the job market and things like that?
Well, the bottom line is the movie business and primarily the TV business is in Los Angeles. That's that's kind of, you got to face that fact, and that's and there's other reasons to move to the city. I mean, to me, it's really New York or LA. There's New Orleans and there's New Mexico. As far as things going on, Vancouver, the places where. But there's got to be other reasons. I mean, the bottom line is in LA, everybody's doing it. I actually happen to like that a lot. I'm one of the main reasons I moved to Los Angeles was the weather. I was sick of snow and sick of humidity. So that was another thing for me. But when I got there, I found that the best part about the city for me was that it's the only city that I know that where you go into a deli and every single table is talking about the movie business. And I love that. Some people wouldn't love that. I love that. There's no other city. You go to New York City, there's going to be a doctor, a Wall Street guy, a lawyer. I mean, it's rare to find somebody in the movie business there because it's got everything. And pretty much every city that I've ever been to has everything, except Los Angeles has only movies. So I enjoyed that, and I enjoyed being in that world. I would say that there's opportunities in New York, there's opportunities in some of those other cities I mentioned, and there's more competition in LA, but that's really where it's happening. I guess it would be.
Unless you meet like an 80-year-old server in a restaurant or a bar, you can, and even then, you can pretty much assume that they're in show business of writer, director, actor, candidate. When I first started coming to the Midwest, I'd say, "What do you do?" And they'd say, "I wait tables."
Yeah.
And I go, "No, but what do you want to do?" They go, "This is what I do." And I realized I was almost insulting people. I mean, I didn't mean to, but that was their job choice. That's what the market was. And I kept thinking, now you've got to be.
That's an old joke that there's no waiters or waitresses in Los Angeles. That
That's right.
there's no actual waiters or waitresses. They're all just trying to get somewhere else, and that's their day job. So,
But I love that too, because anytime I was bored in the middle of the night, I could go out to a coffee shop and you'd see writers furiously. I mean, before the computers and internet, you'd see people furiously writing or actors hanging out, and you could always find some industry person.
Yeah, exactly.
To
and that's,
connect
there's a comfortable just feeling about that. And I mean, I don't know what other city you can name something like that. I mean, Pittsburgh, it's steel or something like that. I have no idea where there's another city where everywhere you go, you can kind of have a commonality with people. I mean, to find somebody. And also one other thing I got to say, I'm a huge supporter of Los Angeles, that people, the LA people are this and that. It is almost rare, as you should know, to find somebody that's born and raised in LA. That's like a 1 in 50. Like every single person is from the Midwest, they're from Jersey, they're from Ohio, they're from Florida, they're from everywhere. So there's no real LA people. The LA people are few and far between. So it's everybody. It's really big, this destination city, and for people to follow their dream, which I appreciate.
No, very, very, very true. So in terms of beginning a career there, I mean, that's one advantage, that you're going to be able to connect pretty easily with other industry people in whether they're behind camera or on camera talent.
Yeah.
But now that you're doing what you're doing, you produced how many movies now? 6, 7?
Oh no! Gosh, I think I just did number 11 or 12.
Oh my gosh! Well, I'm sorry. I'm behind the times with your book. I'm behind the times on the number of movies you've done. So I apologize. So all right. So but given you're an actor, a dancer, a producer. Given that, the idea of moving to Hollywood or relocating for these people, besides the fact that they can connect and the weather's great and they live in paradise and of course there's lots of traffic but there's the ocean and the mountains and what about the job climate out there, and what do you think in terms of people being able to what should they do? Should they go to acting school if they want to be an actor? Should they find an agent? Do they just keep making content? Do you have any?
I mean, look, you have to do something, I think, that sets yourself apart, because there is that competition out there. Like, I did 2 films last year in New York, actually, and then 1 this year in New York, and these were upstate a little bit, because we had, it's a long story, but there was, we chose to do them upstate. Bottom line is, say a sound guy can't, everybody can hear me? Yep, good, we're good? Yeah. Good. All right. Say a sound guy is a pain in the ass, or just his rate is too high, and that's your only set. Like, you have maybe one other option in the city. In Los Angeles, you have 50 other options, or maybe that's too much. Maybe you have 20 other options. But the bottom line is there's more competition, so you have to set yourself apart. And I think one of the keys to what you're saying is, director, producer, writer, you got to make content. Everybody has to be a producer in some way. Even the actors have to be a producer in some way. That's why a lot of actors also enjoy reading my book, and directors that had no intentions of producing, but they read the book and they go, okay, this is how, you raise money so that you can produce a film. And then you have kind of a calling card, whether it's a short film, whether it's a feature that you piece together. Then you've shown why you've set yourself apart, and then that will get you jobs. And as opposed to just going there and saying, I'm one of the pack. I mean, I remember interviewing these directors, and I actually had directors say that to me, hey, I'm no better than anybody else. And it's like, well, I'm not hiring you then. And I remember this one director had a short film that won something like 30 film festival awards, and he told me just right in front of me, he said, I'm like the best thing going, man. I think I could put my stuff against anybody. And it's like, of course I'm going to hire that guy, because, that's the one I want to be, investing my time and money with.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You've done it. Can you kind of, one of the ways that people can learn and can have similar successes to understand the career path of someone else. Can you describe how you went from not being a visible producer and actor to being a visible producer and actor?
Well, I think that, my quick story is that I did a film in '98 called Gravesend. I was an actor in the film, one of the 4 main actors, and we shot it on the streets of Brooklyn. It was one of those stories of just going and shooting. And I mean, we'd literally pull up to street corners. There'd be a gang of thugs, and we'd go like, "Do you guys want to shoot a fight scene?" They'd be like, "Yeah," and big fights would break out every night. But when we were done, we got Oliver Stone to put his name on the movie, and it was in theaters. And the story behind that is that the only actor that kept going with that was me and the director slash writer. Even though we improvised the whole movie, the director slash head writer of the film is now. He considered to be the best episode of Sopranos. He was the Dennis Leary fireman show. He was the head writer of that.
Oh,
he just was the head writer of Revenge. I mean, there's a guy making mid to top six-figure salary for the past 15 years as a writer. And but the bottom line is, and then after that, I realized I wasn't going to get all these roles handed to me, so I had to learn every aspect of the business. But one of the things that I did is I became a very strong writer. I'm in the guild now for 12 years, I think, and I've sold 16 screenplays. Some uncredited, but that was that used to be a huge lucrative thing writing wise. And the way I did that, and the way I will say that writing I learned from reading. That's what I say to any writer: is read as many of the good screenplays as you can. I get a kick out of these writers who say they have a great idea. They watch movies and they say, "I can do that." It's like, that's like watching open heart surgery and saying, "I can do that." You have to read a screenplay. You have to read the classics, the best ones, and go, okay, that's the form. That's how they do it, and kind of model yourself after that. And producing, I just was smart enough when I was able to raise some money to hire experienced producers, and I kept my mouth shut and I listened to everything they say. Now, years later, they're peers of mine that we offer each other advice, but at the time, they were up here, and I was just a little producer. And I just, the key, if there's any key to my success, it's been to learn and learn and learn and learn, and not assume that I know everything, and sooner or later, you do start knowing everything, because, and I still don't believe I know everything, but every new movie, you get new set of challenges, and you figure out new things, and you become stronger and more powerful as a producer. There you go from there. And director too, yeah. But
That's awesome.
I don't direct, but I'm saying for those directors.
Well, one of the things you did in your early films that I noticed that I thought was quite remarkable, and I've mentioned, is you were producing these films. Maybe you had other producers with you, but you would take a lead role, but not the lead role.
Yeah, a good supporting lead.
You took a supporting lead role, which I thought was absolutely brilliant. And but you had your own reasoning for that, and could you explain why?
Well, when I started doing that, I remember it was about 2004. I said to an agent of mine, I'm an actor, writer, producer, and she shook her head and she said, "Oh, you can't be all three. You got to be one of those. That you can't be all three." And I joked that I think the same agent today would advise their actors to be a producer, And so I feel like I was a triple hyphenate before that was a thing, and now it's a thing. And so, at the end of the day, and I've always said this, you have to be able to put up. I've actually seen the films where somehow the kid got the money and was the lead role, and he was the only bad part of the film. I remember I'm actually visualizing one in my head that I went to the premiere of, and it was like, oh God. And actually, even my friend just did one where he was a hired gun director for this, and the kid that had financed it himself was the lead role, and it was just pathetic. But bottom line is, so you have to put up. So what I wanted to do, I felt extremely strong, and still do in my talent as an actor, that I can match anybody. So I made sure that I surrounded myself with named stars and showed that I was just as good, if not better. I did a film called The Attic that was badly reviewed. I think the critics were a little unkind to it, but I think they were looking for a horror movie, and it was more of an art house. But my sister in that movie was Elizabeth Moss, who was the star of Mad Men, and got nominated for Golden Globe every year and everything, and the Emmy, got nominated for the Emmy several times. When the reviews get crap all over it, I gained about maybe 30 pounds in the film, and I played this autistic guy. Even the bad reviews always cite my performance as the best part of the film, and it's like, so here's Elizabeth Moss, and so I knew I could bring my talent to the screen. And so again, at the end of the day, you have to have that talent. Now, there's some aspects like acting where there's a little bit of inherence, and writing maybe too, but then there's aspects like producing and directing where, if anybody's sitting there thinking, well, maybe I'm not a something special, you can. There's great directors that are really craftsmen, that are really know the technique over and over again for all these years and became experts at it. and suddenly they're top tier directors, and they don't have to be auteurs where they're Wes Anderson and every goddamn color effect has to match up, but they're like Barry Sonnenfeld, like somebody like that. That's like, I know for a fact is a craftsman that knows this is the things that fit into here, and he's making all the Men in Blacks, and that's nothing to shake your head at. So yeah.
Wow. Well, there are a couple other things that made perfect sense with that, and one is when you have paired yourself with strong other name actors. It immediately elevates your status, I mean, in terms of the audience, because now you're acting with them. But now you also have footage acting with recognizable talent. So if you're embarking on launching your own career and you're an actor and you want to do a movie, far better to put yourself in a supporting role where you're seen acting well with the name talent than to be the lead and have smaller talent underneath you. And as you said, sometimes that person sucks, and then what do you do?
Yeah, exactly. It always looks good when you're, it's whatever you're doing. You want to be with the best people. You never want to be. You never want to work with people lower than you. And I don't mean that in a forever. I mean, like if you're trying to move up, work with people that you look up to and you aspire to will always make you better.
Yeah, I always say if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in bad company. You need
exactly. You don't want to be that way. And I don't ever want to be that way. I think there's maybe insecurity or insecure people that do want that, but I never want that. I would rather be working with aces and say, I can bring my A game as well. But we'll see.
Very, very cool. Now, when it came to actually financing your very first film, I would like you to tell us how that was possible and if that's still possible today. In other words, the world has changed. Yeah. But for people watching this, and I know they'll want to read your book too. But what advice or what opportunities are out there for them to secure financing in a realistic way to make a decent film that could get to the screen, even if it doesn't.
Yeah. Well, I think that the key is that it's not that the same techniques that I did when I first started, and that was maybe 2005 when I first got closed-end investor for The Attic, is that the same techniques are there. I think that just the budgets are a little bit lower, that you're looking for a different amount of money, whereas $1 million film would be your low-end film back then. I think that your low-end film should be $50,000 to $75,000. It's literally that much changed. And I twice did films for that low, but bottom line is that the main thing that I always say is that you have to stay out of the film business if you're looking for financiers. You don't want the person that was a jaded producer or a director or a music composer. And I think the joke is that when you have aunts and uncles that you say you're looking to produce, they go, oh, I have a guy, he's a composer or something ridiculous. That means absolutely nothing for you. You want somebody that is that made their money making pencil sharpeners, and they made $30 million, $40 million making pencil sharpeners, and they have some disposable income, and giving you $100,000, $150,000, $200,000 doesn't hurt them. And what it does is it gives them, you're their conduit into that world. That all they do is sit around the office and talk about pencil sharpeners, and that's all they know. That's their business. And you've now taken that person and put them on a red carpet, and suddenly they're getting phone calls from Jessica Biel because she's the lead of the film. That's huge, and I think that's what's sexy about the film industry for anybody, So I think the key is you gotta find somebody that's not in the film world and introduce them to that world, and that's very exciting for them.
Absolutely. Are there avenues that people might pursue today to find people like that? How do you go, I'm looking for somebody who's made a lot of money. Do they just start picking up the phone? Do they get online? Do they? Well,
yes, I online, but I'm not a big fan. But I know one of the things that I do is that I reach out to everybody that I know and or have in the past, and ask them if they know anybody, and because it's the whole 6 degrees of separation. I don't know everybody that you know, but everybody that you know is 1 degree away from me, and then everybody that all of your friends know are 2 degrees away from me. So you use that kind of 6 degrees of separation, and you say, Rex, I'm looking to find $100,000 for my film. Do you know anybody? And if so, we'll give you an associate producer credit, give you, 4 or 5 grand, as a fee, and then you've paired me with that investor. So, that's just one of the ways. But the other way that I do is that if you have the mindset of you're always pitching, things will start to present themselves. Like, meaning, in your mind, you know your number. You're very clear on your number that you want to raise and when you want to raise it by. Let's just say it's $500,000. And I'm out there then always verbally, kind of keeping my mind open to it, but always verbally pitching. You go to a bar, hey, what do you do? Oh, I'm in construction. Oh, what do you do? I'm looking to raise, $500,000 for a movie. And you're always putting that out there. And he goes, oh yeah, my uncle owns the 3rd largest construction business in the country. But you should talk. And so I'm always kind of putting it out there, looking for that money. But once you start meeting kind of a network of high net worth individuals, H&Is, as I call them in the book, you start to meet more of them, and you kind of get into that world, so to speak, and you realize that money's everywhere.
And that is really true. I mean, that's. I think there's a lot of people who struggle to raise money because they don't know that it's all around them. There's, I mean, all you have to, and I drive down the street every day and I look at all the new construction and I go, somebody's got a ton of money.
Financing somewhere, exactly.
It's all around us. It's completely abundant.
Yeah, and, I just returned from Cannes, 3-4 days ago, and the film festival's next month. I was there for MIP, which is the TV festival, and man, you see the amount of money and you see the amount of just blatant spending that's going on there. I had dinner with this woman the one night, and me and her together, it was 650 euros. $650. I think it was 580 euros, whatever, but the conversion was that, and for 2 of us. And it's like, you're not always in those situations where you see the money everywhere. You're not always in Dubai and Cannes and things like that, but even in the Midwest, like you said, these construction, there's money being spent and flowing. So.
Yeah, it's amazing. Somebody presented me, I don't remember what it was. They showed me a receipt not that long ago of a celebration dinner that a bunch of financiers did, and the bill was something like $150,000 for their dinner. I mean, they had Cristal, like bottle after bottle, and case after case, and this and that and the other. I was like, really? Yep. Really, in my, and I go, you know what? If I'm not thinking that big, I'm thinking too small. Doesn't mean you have to have it.
That's always. I feel like there's always that part of the film business that I've done those things and been in those situations. I've actually very similar to what you just said. It wasn't that much, but I mean there was about 30 bottles of Cristal, and I've been in the private jets and things. There is that 5% of the film business that is so like that special, the special situations that you kind of need that sometimes to just remember, oh, this is great. I mean, like, this is why I'm doing this. But then, just to everybody else there, it's, it's so much work, and it's, you really have to, I've always said that the thing that separates me from other people is that I'm working. I mean, like, up to the second before you Skyped me, I'm here making edits on a script that I'm trying to develop, with some guys from Saturday Night Live. It's a comedy script. And so, I'm always working. And I think that a lot of people are attracted. I mean, my favorite thing being, like, let me back up and say this. If I was to ask any of those people there, how do you become a doctor? They would all have a simple answer. Oh, you go to, med school, and then you have to do a residency. And, how long would that take? Maybe 10, 12 years before you actually became a doctor. I've actually heard people say, oh, I gave the acting thing a try for 6 months. Yeah. I gave the directing thing a try for 9 months. It's like, are you crazy? Like, on the high end, an actor or director will make 10 times what a doctor makes, but you think 6 months is going to be able to do it. So you have to be ready to commit 100% and not give up. So.
There is that. I think especially with actors. I don't know if the directors, but I know the actors that I've known all of my life, and the young actors especially, that they feel like they have to make it at 19, or they have to make it at 20, or they have to make it at 21. I mean, whatever age they are, that's the year they have to make it. And there are a lot of people who don't make it till they're 30 or 40 or 50. You know, Dennis Franz, not Dennis Franz. Well, I mean, yeah, Dennis Franz. I mean, he look at his career in television and NYPD Blue and stuff. He'd been in movies before that, but he became a star later. But Dennis Farina became a star at his 50. I mean, you know, so there's a lot of people.
There's a great thing I just saw the other day. I was watching the movie Airplane with my kids because I always wanted to show them that film, and that's from 1980. So what is that? That's 20. That's
almost 30.
35 years ago, right? I'm watching a scene, and there's this one air traffic controller, and it's the guy who played the star of Breaking Bad. I forget what his real name is. Mike Ehrmantraut. He was the cop. That yeah. You know, and he's he's bald and he's white hair, and it's like I have never seen him in anything. I mean, he must have sat in the background for movies for this, and now he's huge. I mean, because he's on the other show too, so he's got 2 hits on his hands. And but anyway, you know what I'm talking about, Mike on the show. You know, and he So here he is in Airplane as an air traffic controller with 2 lines. 35 years ago. 35 years. So when did Breaking Bad came out? 5. So 30 years he's been in the business before he hit that big. That role. Yeah,
you got to be in for the long haul if you want to do it. I think that's I'm really glad that you said that. And 2, I'm gonna bet that. Now I'm getting feedback. Did you turn some volume up or something?
No. I just was looking on a different computer. Jonathan Banks was his name. Go ahead. Yeah. Sorry.
But I'm gonna bet that I'm gonna oppose something that you said, that you worked before I called you.
Yeah.
You were working. You're doing something you love.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you call it work because we all call it work, but you're driven, you're passionate, you love it. So it's not really work, is it?
Yes and no. I would say that this, I've had more of a rebirth in a way this year to say that, all right, in general, yes, I'm happy and blessed to be working nonstop in the film business since, 2001. I've never had a job outside the film business. But, for example, if I work on a film, here's my rebirth happened that last year. I did make 2 films, and I also made a TV show. But then I did too much consulting for paychecks. Because of my book, people hire me to come consult on their films, and I did a lot of films that I had absolutely no interest in because it was a good paycheck. And that's and I did that in Los Angeles sometimes too, where I was helping people achieve their dreams and their goals for money, and I decided I'm not doing that anymore. Like, basically, unless I am passionate about the project, it doesn't have to be all the Tom Malloy show, but if you give me a script, unless I say, I am excited about this, it's going to change the world, it's going to do this, there's a good role for me, anything that's going to get me passionate, I'm not doing it anymore. I don't give a crap what you're saying, as far as money-wise, up to a certain extent. You pay me $500,000, I'll do anything, but the bottom line is, I'm just not going for those things. So yes, right now I'm working on stuff that I love, and it's not work; it's passion.
Well, the interesting thing about what you said, as I hear it, is that you did some things for cash, and fine, so be it. But you go, I don't want to do that anymore. Yeah. So what it helped you do is clarify what you really want to spend your time in, and where you really want to spend your time in. And that's with the things that are important to you and that you're passionate about and that are meaningful to you, whether or not it's the Tom Malloy show or otherwise.
Exactly.
So I mean, I think that's a really valid point. That so many of us, you ask somebody, an actor, what do you want to do, and they go, well, I don't want to be in action movies. Yeah. And I go, okay, but what do you want to do? Well, I won't do porn. I go, well, that makes sense. I wouldn't either. Okay, what about? I won't do this. I don't want to get typecast. I'm going, as long as you're focused on those things, you're not going to do anything. Yeah. You need to know, if those are what you won't do, the question becomes what is it you're willing to do? What is it that you love? What is it that you want to do that you can devote your time and energy, your mindset to gaining that expertise and becoming good at? And then fill your hours with that.
I love it. And the times that have been the best, and I'd say that this last film was probably, so far, knock on wood, the best one, can they hear? Everybody can hear?
Yeah, no, I'm checking. I want to also check because they'll have questions, and I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
No problem. The last film that I think is the best, I think is going to be, knock on wood, hopefully a horror franchise. We just completed this horror movie. But this was the true example of going with the flow. And what it was I was at I made a horror film years ago called The Alphabet Killer that did well, and God, that was back in like 2008.
Yeah.
And so now this is 7 years later. I was with my daughter at a line for a haunted hayride, and I was watching these people get scared by the guy with the chainsaw and everything, and I posted on Facebook, I just decided right now that I want to make another horror movie. Who's in? And it was my most commented and liked post ever, you know what I mean? Over 400 people, liking, commenting, saying all this stuff. And that was October 4th of 2014. By February 4th, I was fully financed, and we were finished March something. We finished like March 14th or 20th or something like that. We finished shooting. And now we're in post-production and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, I felt this surge of energy, went with it, and said, I want to put myself in this. I didn't know how I was going to finance it, where it was going, and everything fell into place. It was the law of attraction down to a T, and I thought, man, I got to look for those omens when they come, and so hopefully this would be the one. But no matter what, we made a film, and we were very proud of it. So.
It's amazing, and I love what you said, because that's part of what we've been talking about in this class a lot. Your mindset, it brings it to you. Opportunities come because you go as far as you can. You don't know necessarily how it's going to happen, but as long as you're dedicated to knowing what you want, you open yourself up to the good things around you that you might not have noticed otherwise.
Exactly.
Very cool.
You got to take that. I've been to AFM, God, every year for maybe 8 or 9 years now, and it's like this year, I thought, oh, geez, how much time can I put into this? I was doing, and I said, no, I got to go, and that's where I found my investor and closed him, and there it goes. So you got to be willing to just take the jump in the pool, no matter what it takes.
Fantastic, awesome. I'm loving this. Let me just turn around and see who has a question. Who's going to ask a question first? Yes, Kevin.
I'd just like to know what you advise for people when they're just starting out and just moved out there.
It depends on. Let me ask you. The person who asked the question: are you an actor, director? What is it? Multiple? What do you do?
Writing.
Okay, writer. Yeah. Well, writer's a little bit different because the one thing about a writer that I always say is that with an actor, a director, or a producer, there's such an aspect of selling yourself. With a writer, that's the least amount of aspect, because at the end of the day, I could be the most charming, awesome person ever. If my script sucks, my script sucks, and vice versa. I could be the weirdest freak, wearing boxer shorts and flip-flops, but if the script is golden, you're going to sell it in Hollywood. So it's, here's what I say with screenwriters is that I go back to, I don't know who exactly said this, but it was a great screenwriter who says, good scripts get sold. And what he means by that is that if it's truly a kind of quote-unquote killer script where it's whatever genre it is, it works, there's a magic behind it. So what I would say to you as a writer is that you have to have, first off, I would have a body of work and not just one screenplay that you're attaching. If you have one screenplay, great, write another one, and then write another one. But be out there. First off, reading as much as you can, seeing what's, whatever the hit was, read Whiplash, read, some of the best films from last year, and read them and see how they're written. And so get your script to the best possible place it could be. Have a body of scripts is also good. And then go out there and start trying to submit to literary agents and start to, submit to production companies and start to meet people and tell them the script. But the bottom line is, if you have a piece of gold, if you have a script that's actually gold, now you're in the best possible situation, because I will tell you that so many people have scripts, and so many people do the steps that I just told you of meeting the literary agents and submitting in production companies and this and that, but at the end of the day, their script is crap. There's a famous story that I've said before about this film crew set up outside the supermarket in LA. It's called Ralph's. And just everybody that came out, they asked, how's their script coming? Like 80 to 90% of people had an answer, which is hilarious. So that's LA. But the bottom line is, they discourage somebody, but it shouldn't. The flip side of the coin is it should go, well, that just means that 80 to 90, more like 99.99% of the scripts are crap. And if you can make a killer script, you will set yourself apart from that pack of just crap.
Yeah, thank you.
Ryan?
What would you suggest for somebody who wanted to go out to be like a director, an actor, a producer? How are those different? And I guess is what I'm asking.
Sure. As far as any of those three that you just said, I'd say that the key is to make something. You know, especially these days with your access to technology, you couldn't do that. You know, years ago, you couldn't rent the cameras and things like that, and you can now. And so it depends on what you want to do most. But you know, if you're a director, you want to do most, make sure you're directing. If it's an actor, you want to do most, make sure you're acting. You know, whatever you want to do most. But you know, the bottom line is you can find people very quickly out there to be able to put things together and make a short film, or God, you know, I mean, my suggestion would not be to just jump in and make a feature, but I would also say don't just keep making short films. I would say, you know, make 2 or 3 and then actually go and try to make a feature, because then you have a sellable product. Your short film's not going to sell and make money. But whatever it is, make sure it's quality material. You know, it's a good short film that has a great performance or whatever is that calling card for you. You know, then you have a reel. And you, by the way, you know, you could get stars in these shorts. Like what Rex was saying with me, you know, surrounding myself with big stars. I've seen it done in shorts as well. You know, I remember one year going to Holly Shorts, and David Arquette had a short film there. Josh Brolin had a short film there, and it's like these are. I mean, you know, so whoever's making these is doing these with these people because they're fun little projects, and sometimes here's one of the best parts of LA that I love is that people kind of quote unquote come out to play. If it doesn't take too much of their time and it doesn't take too much of their energy, they will, you know, make the drive from Studio City to Burbank to shoot your film or be in your film or help out your film. But they won't, you know, they're not going to fly to, you know, Rochester, New York to do something for $0. But they will, you know, they'll come out to play in Los Angeles. And so, bottom line is make something.
Don't exit out of that. You need to scroll down this and accept it. Otherwise, it'll kick you off the internet.
But I'm not supposed to be on the, sorry.
Sure.
I wasn't supposed to be on the internet. I'm plugged in. I guess I didn't turn the Wi-Fi off. Sorry.
No problem.
Almost lost you there for a sec.
Yeah.
It's okay.
It's a day of tech issues. So let's make sure that we hear the last part of what you said over again in case that was obscured by...
The last part, and to sum it all up, was make stuff. Make stuff, make content, and don't make crap content unless you're doing crap content to warm yourself up, but really just make good content. Make good short films. Make a good, you know, maybe some super low budget feature, but make stuff. That's the key.
I'm gonna add something to that in that I had a friend who put all sorts of stuff up on YouTube or Funny and Die or, you know, Vimeo. I mean, and these different places. And I watched it, and I watched it, and I watched it, and really it was pretty bad. Mm. And I encourage people not to throw stuff up on the internet because it has a life. Yeah. Even if you try and take it down, it can be there forever. And you don't want someone 5 years from now going back and go, "Oh, aren't you the one responsible for that piece of crap I saw, you know, on YouTube?" And you go, you want to make sure that your content is as good and as representative and as stellar as it can be, while at the same time you don't want to be so afraid that you don't get your best works up there. You've got to have a little gravity, you know, cojones.
Yeah, it has to be in the middle. Yeah, you never want to put stuff that's bad representation of you, but at the same time you want to make things. You want to put stuff up. I joked with somebody recently because they wanted to hire me as a producer for this film, which I turned down because I was not excited about it after. But they sent me the script, and then before they sent me the script, they were going to ask me to sign an NDA, which I've had a couple screenwriters do, and I wouldn't sign it. I've never signed the NDA for reading a script. But I joked to my director friend that was showing it to me, as I said, across the board, this is my favorite thing. Every time someone's asked me to sign an NDA, it's the worst possible script I've ever read in my life. So what I always get a kick out is the person that does that wants to hoard the script has a piece of crap script, and it's just hilarious, you know, but that's, you know, I thought that was just kind of a funny story, and of course the script wasn't horrible this time, but it was definitely not, it wasn't great, and it wasn't something I was passionate about. And this was for a big paycheck. But you're right. You make stuff, and but make good stuff. But at the end of the day, it's got to be there. It's got to be done.
Excellent.
Could I ask a follow-up question?
Sure.
Like, you had talked about, like, sending scripts to literary agents. Do you want to, like, just kind of talk about the process of getting your first agent? Like, how do you go about doing that?
Well, mind you, I one time was going to sign with a literary agent. I didn't do it. I've never had a literary agent. I've made hundreds of thousands of dollars selling screenplays. So it's not 100% necessary to do that. I just happen to know a lot of producers, and also I was producing some of my own films, and so that's, and production companies and distributors. And I mean, at one point I had a gig rewriting scripts for a foreign sales company that they were just giving it to me, and they were in different languages, and I was taking the story and making the script English. So the process of finding literary agents can be started once you have the killer script. And truly, it's got to be where a person that's doing what's called a coverage report. I don't know if you know what that is, but a coverage report is kind of summary of your script and a kind of ranking of character, dialogue, plot, blah, blah, blah. And you have to have a good coverage report by a coveraging agent. This can't be like your friend and your mom read the script and was like, this is awesome. That's not who you want. You want good coverage on the script. And you can get those people too, by the way. You can place an ad in LA Craigslist and ask for coverage. You'll get a ton of responses. Bottom line is, if it's a killer script, then you have to have that first. Then that's when you start sending it to the literary agents, and you can start that process, like I said, as soon as you have it from wherever you are. You can start that process from where you're sitting right now and just start reaching out to these people and say, I have this, would you like to read it? And it's going to take a lot of, follow-up and a lot of emails and rejections, and you just have to keep at it. But also, one of the best parts of LA is that I met most of my friends and things through networking, through parties, through going to events, to just shaking hands and being friendly. And that's where, here, let me see. I got a great script. I got a great sports script. Let me send it to you. And that's in AFM. And if you can afford it, can. So at the end of the day, networking is the best way. Cold calling or cold emailing works. It's it's going to be 1 in 1,000 is going to get you. But you have to be willing to do everything. You have to be bless you. You have to be willing to sneeze. No, you have to be willing to follow up with the email, follow up with the voicemails. You got to be willing to get to those parties and shake hands and kiss babies.
So, and that would be the same for if you wanted to be a director, or an actor, or producer. Once you have that first good piece of content, that's when you start sending it out to. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
It was probably the 80s, when a lot of people kind of looked at LA, especially from within LA, and went, I'm tired of the party scene, and I'm tired of doing all this stuff, because everybody's in it for what's in it for them.
Yeah.
You met somebody and they go, what do you do? And if you couldn't help them, then they were on to the next person. I think people have grown up. I mean, I've always thought of LA as one of the nicest cities around. People, because you could help them. You could be the multimillionaire in rags. I mean, nobody knows for sure. You could be, the son or father of some star. So people tend to be a little, in my experience, especially since the 80s, people tend to be a little bit more friendly and a little bit more open. I think, and that might be partly to do with social media and the idea of networking.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Oh, no, I agree 100%, but I will say that I always try to keep business when I'm at, even though in my head I'm partying for a purpose, I keep business as, 1/20th of what I'm talking. I just have fun, and I'm nice, and I'm friendly, and I'm charming, and I have a good time, and people like that a lot more, and then maybe it's just a little bit of business thrown in, or I will delay it, until the third or fourth time I'm hanging out with that person, and then it's like, oh, by the way, I got this, but, you don't want to be just going around, hey, I'm so-and-so, here's my card, let's do business together,
Exactly, and that being my point, too, is that because it's friendlier now, you can go out, you can connect with people, and if you're genuinely interested in people as people, and you're out to have a good time, and you're out to have fun, you can network quite readily. You can be, especially if you're fun, you get invited to parties and different things. So you have opportunities by being in that city to to make connections and become friends with people who down the road may be somebody, like as you were saying, down the road, this business. I mean, you obviously go to an industry party because you're part of the industry or you want to be part of the industry. But if you wear the industry on your sleeve, nobody cares.
Yeah, exactly.
And most people in Hollywood, for a lot of them, they know where you at. They can tell. They're pretty good at sizing people up and knowing if they've done this. And, nobody's really dumb out there.
But I also another tip, and I think you have to have a little bit of pop or cachet, I would say, before you do this, is that I had a publicist, and the publicist got me into premieres of some of the biggest films, and it was like, here I am at the after party, rubbing elbows with the top people, and so, it's just, I mean, Joe Drake, I think he's the head of Lionsgate now, or the head of Mandate. It's like I used to see him at all these premieres, and to the point where he knew my name. I didn't ask anything from him. Just hey man, hey Joe, how you doing? As a family, blah blah blah. And then now if I was to reach out to him, he'd take my email, he'd take my call because he knows me and he's seen me at 20 premieres. So that was just establishing that, and not the first time I see him go up, hey man, I got a movie for you. That would never work. So,
right. No, it is. It's. I always think it's friendship first, and don't abuse your friends.
Yeah, exactly.
It's you connect at a human level, and then, all right. So we've got about a half an hour left. Is that good for you?
Yeah, it's fine.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
Other questions?
I would say, how important would that, because you said a publicist got you into those premieres, how important is it to get a publicist versus an agent?
Well, it's really important, and it's very good to get a publicist, but you can't. How should I say this? In Los Angeles, there are a dime a dozen, and you see these people walking the red carpet. That's like, who the heck is? I mean, they had one. I mean, I remember this one girl. There was a movie called Dear John. Was that Dear John? Anyway, it's a Channing Tatum movie, and my publicist, I asked, who is this girl? Because they usually know, they get the tip sheets or whatever. And she was with somebody else, and he said, oh, she's in Dear John. And I thought, oh, wow, she's, supporting role with Channing Tatum and that other girl in the movie. I thought, oh, that's pretty good. I ended up going to the premiere of Dear John, and who was Amanda Seyfried was the girl in it. I ended up going to the premiere, and I saw this girl's role. She, honest to God, did not have one line in the movie. She was in a scene with Channing Tatum and the girl, and that was it. So somehow she had hired a publicist to take her to events. So here's the deal. They get you into the events, but then she disappeared. That was it. She probably had 1 month with the publicist to kind of get that Dear John premiere, and that was the end of it. You don't want to be the guy that's got the publicist that, it has nothing to do with the movie business. I remember there was this one girl that hired a publicist that I knew, and she was a real estate mogul, and so she'd done well in real estate, so enough to hire a publicist, and she was getting her in these parties, but they were the B and C and D list events, and that's the events where there's sharks and there's people that really aren't going to help your career at. There was a horrible, scammy group called the Presidential Inner Circle, I think was the name of it, and this guy that was running it, and he was basically serving as a publicist for people if you had the money, and the money was ridiculous, like $2,500 a month or something like that, and every single one of his events were the D and the C and D list. C would be the best ones, but the D list events that in LA there's 3 events a night that you can go to, but there's 2 premieres a week that are where everybody goes, so you could get, if you had the money to hire the best publicist, I'd say you couldn't do it right now because you don't have enough on your resume to warrant the publicist. You have to have something. When Love and Dancer was coming out, that's when my publicist was the best for me because the movie was, it's in the movie theaters right now or it just came out or whatever. Then I'm getting into all these events and I'm on the red carpets and the photographers know me and they see me and I still have relationships with some of those photographers, but I wouldn't do it unless I had something big going on.
You have to strike when the iron's hot, but you have to have a hot iron.
yeah, exactly. I have to have a hot iron. Yeah, exactly.
So, cool. Who else? What else? Anything? Yes, Stephen.
Hi. My name is Stephen. I was wondering, reading up on dreadcentral.com, they said what was very flawed about the script for the Alphabet Killer that you wrote? How did the review affect you, and what did you learn from it so you did not write that way in your future scripts?
Well, the bottom line is that the Alphabet Killer script, and I'll even go back and say the Attic script, was a really great script. Here's the thing before you go into a movie that you have to know. A great script does not guarantee great reviews and great success. It does, however, stack the deck in your favor towards that, and it stacks the deck in your favor that you're going to make the movie, okay? But I will say that a crap script guarantees failure. Right? So the other way is 100% true. I remember when the Attic script, when people were reading, people were coming in audition going, oh my god, this is the next Halloween, this is the best thing ever. And then it just didn't make it onto the screen. The Alphabet Killer, my story that's a little different because Rob Schmidt, who was the director of that movie, came in and had his own writer take it over and changed a bunch of scenes. He didn't take the credit for it, but he changed a bunch of scenes. And I was a little bit too young and inexperienced to prevent that at the time. Now I wouldn't allow it. But, the bottom line is, look, I think that the script actually still really worked great. And, Dread Central saying, like, who the hell is that? I mean, like, okay, I don't give a shit, to be honest with you. Like, Dread Central said it wasn't great, it's fine. It didn't get the reviews. You never know exactly what's going to get the great reviews. Why did Whiplash work so well? Why did Boyhood become a thing? Well, Boyhood was a freaking, was a gimmick. And, so at the end of the day, it's movie gods and things. The Alphabet Killer, I still think, holds up on paper very well, and we make money on the film. Did it become a major hit? No. It was this close, and it was like, that's what you're going to find in the film business, is that there's so many times where, a perfect example, my friend laid it out, an actor, 50 years, said he surfs as well, says, it's like surfing, that you go for the wave, and the wave is right in front of you. Then you go again for the wave is right behind you. Then you talk to the guy on the pier, and he goes, man, if you had only come yesterday, the waves were gigantic. And that's the film business. He says, but when you hit that wave, and you catch it, it's like the greatest feeling ever, And so I'm still taking swings at that, and I mean, I recently had somebody email me about my book and said, why should I believe your book? Because you didn't have a $100 million movie yet. And I laughed, and I said, well, the books are not raising money, moron. It's like, I've raised over $25 million. I'm not telling you how to make a hit, and anybody that thinks they know that is an idiot. The head of Disney greenlighted that John Carter movie and lost $400 million, and it's like, so, and then he got fired. So anybody can make that, and you just keep taking swings at that and hope somehow a movie's going to be well received and the timing's going to be perfect for it, and not give up.
I think if you're in a creative industry, that it's like anything. Not everybody's going to like what you do. And when some of the biggest stars in the world, who you go, oh my gosh, I would, kill 100 people to stand next to this person for 5 minutes. That half the world still hates them or doesn't know who they are. I mean, it's just the nature of the business. Bad reviews sometimes kill a movie. Sometimes the movies go way beyond a bad review. It's just.
Well, I mean, you think of Robert Downey Jr. And he for so many years did not work in anything. I mean, nothing. And I mean, they made a joke. Ben Stiller, when there was at the MTV Movie Awards, Iron Man had just come out, and Robert Downey Jr. was now the king. And he was kind of taking his throne, and Ben Stiller said, "Oh, that's great. What are you, like 1 for 35 now?" And it was like, that's funny because yes, that's basically what he was. He was like 1 for 35. So the only thing you can say is you can't control when you put a movie out in the world how it's going to be received, but you learn and you get better. I mean, the movie we just made, I know so much more about what I want on the screen than I did in Attic or Alphabet Killer as far as horror movies go. So you learn and you make yourself better, but at the end of the day, they may think Screeners is bad, but I believe that they will think it's great, but we'll see. You never know.
Well, I think you have to. I mean, I think that's part of the mindset. You don't go out to make a mediocre movie.
Oh, yeah. Every movie I make, I think, is going to be the one. I mean, and Ron Howard, when he accepted the Oscar for Beautiful Mind, said, when he made this movie and showed it, his mom said, this is the one you're going to win Best Picture for. And then he said, But also, she said that with every movie I ever made. It was like, that's funny because,
Right.
you know, he finally did win Best Picture for that. So you just keep, you know, refining and trying to get better and believing in every movie. Every movie I make, I believe in.
Awesome. Other questions? Comments? Questions?
I mean, is there a way to keep momentum going? It sounds like, I mean, everything that I've heard about the film industry makes it sound like even that time that your first big break or whatever is really only somebody carrying the weight that holds you back for 100 feet before they drop it again. Is there any particularly good way to keep that momentum moving?
Momentum in what sense? Momentum
when you finally kind of get that break, when you finally start working on stuff, what kind of keeps that momentum going? Because it seems like I hear a lot of that, you have this first big picture, your first piece, and then it's over, and then it's just done, and you need to how do you keep that momentum going and use that to find a second piece?
Got it. Well, yeah, I mean that's the thing. I mean, it's like I look back at Gravesend when I came out, and it's like I had a chance to hire a publicist back then, and I didn't. And I feel that if I had, maybe things would have been different. You know, when we finished Outback Killer, Sony offered us a deal, and we turned them down to go through Anchor Bay, which is a long story, but it was, you have to be able to make the right choices when you've hit that success, but it doesn't always work. I mean, I look at some of the actors that I'm good friends with, Billy Zane and Michael Madsen. I'm not trying to drop any names here because their careers aren't doing fantastic. They're doing and it's because they made some choices to not do the right things. I mean, I lived in big mansions when I hit my first success. I look back and I think that was a mistake now because I lived a little bit over my means. And, so that's a good question. You're basically asking how do you predict the future? You don't know. It's like I look at things that have happened in the industry, for example, Mike Myers, who really doesn't work at all anymore. His comedy just suddenly got stupid. You can literally track it, and it was like Wayne's World, and you had the spy Austin Powers movies, and they were funny, and then Judd Apatow's comedy hit, and it was more verbal and more intelligent, and Mike Myers was just stupid comedy, and he wasn't funny anymore. And it's like so you don't know, you can't track everything. The key would be to surrender to it and just try to do the best you can. If you have a hit, think of, all right, what did I do right with that hit, and let me do the similar things. And I think as long as you're passionate about something and you're not just taking jobs to get paid. I mean, I remember one of my co-stars telling me that she took I'll even tell you, it was Amy Smart. I'm not going to tell you the movie, though, but she took this one movie because she knew it was going to pay for her house. That's it. She didn't thought the script was stupid, and it was one of these crazy, dumb comedy movies. She took it because she's like, there's my house. So is that a good choice? I'm not going to control her career. I'm just saying that, you do what you can. I don't know. That's a tough question, man. And it's a good question. It's a tough question. And nobody knows the answer to that. I mean, you're asking basically how do you make the right choices? Who knows?
Well, I think, if I were to add anything, I would say you keep doing. You keep working. You go to the next one, and you work as hard on the next one as you did the first one.
It's a great, to use a quick baseball analogy, it's like every time you make a movie or make a screenplay or whatever, you're coming up to the plate and you're taking a swing. And, you could say each time you're going to try to get better to hit that home run, but you may not be, you may have to go up 100 times. There's a famous thing about salesmen that says the difference between a good salesman and a bad salesman. I love this. That a good salesman will make 100 phone calls and he'll get 15 sales. A bad salesman will make 100 phone calls and he'll get 6 sales. But the bottom line is one's getting 15, the other's getting 6, they're still getting sales. Then the third salesman is the lazy salesman that'll make 10 phone calls. Okay? And that's the difference, is that it doesn't matter if you're a perfect home run hitter or whatever analogy you want to use, a perfect salesman, go up and keep making stuff. Keep making content and you'll get there.
Well, and a very valuable point that you just pointed out is that oftentimes, and if you look at any of the statistics of anybody, it's like the difference between a gold medal winner and a silver medal winner. There's just not much difference.
Yeah.
The top salesperson may not make that many more sales than the person next in line or that average salesperson, but they're doing something qualitatively different that puts them out on the top.
Yeah. I mean, when we made Love and Dancing, it was this close to going big. It was supposed to be released through roadside attractions on Valentine's Day to 500 theaters, and the financing fell through right about the banking crisis time, and it came out opposite Star Trek in May, and then suddenly the critics saw it as a studio movie when all it was a little indie. But it was a mistake that we made. We made an indie look too good. And what it did is it looked like a cheap studio movie, if that makes sense. It was better than an indie, but a cheap studio. And then people trashed it, I mean, not trashed it, but yeah, I mean, there was some positive stuff, but mostly there was negative because they thought, another studio dance movie. And they didn't realize this was an indie film. And if it had come out on Valentine's Day to all those theaters as an indie, the way we were marketing it, great. It didn't. The banking crisis threw me off, and it's like I can look back and dwell on that and be angry about it, or just move on and take another swing at bat.
Very, very cool. All right, we've got about 15 minutes or so. Any other questions? I'll think of them as they come along. Yes.
Who did you have fun dancing with more, Amy Smart or Betty White?
Betty White.
Yeah, did you teach the Cass West Coast swing for Lovin' and Dancing, and how was your experience with it?
Thank you for this good question. That's first off, obviously Betty White. I mean, that was like one of the highlights of my career is dancing with a TV legend like that. That was awesome, and she was great. I did not teach them. I mean, maybe a little bit to Amy Smart. Kind of socially dancing with her, but we had a guy named Robert Royston who was my teacher, who was the greatest, maybe all-time greatest swing and country dancer, and he just he was there choreographing everything, and I mean, God, he was Taylor Swift's choreographer and a bunch of other people, and so he was choreographing the film. But I mean, that was the most fun part about making a dance film was dancing, and everybody was dancing. We had all these dance parties, and I remember dancing with Caroline Ray and all these people at the dance party that were in the movie, Rachel Dratch. It's very sad. That movie is very stinging for me because it came so close. And also, I had wanted to make it about 3 years earlier when there wasn't a flood of dance movies. And then by the time we finally got it to market, Stepping Up, what's the other one? Stomp the Yard, You Got Served. 20 freaking dance movies that came out in the time between the, what I mean? I was like, oh, and, but I loved it, and I loved the experience, and, but you have to understand they were the best people in the world, too. I'm a really good West Coast swing dancer. I am not a dancer, per se, like professional, like I was just a very advanced dancer, but we had Benji Schwimmer, who won So You Think You Could Dance, and all the top West Coast swing champions were in that movie, so I was just trying to hold my own.
Wow. But it's a brave movie. I mean, throw yourself in with all these dancers and to dance and to do the whole thing.
Yeah. It was a lot of fun. And, like I said, I just don't think it was, you can't control how it was received. It was just, I mean, there was people that I still get emails, swear to you, that, this is my favorite movie of all time. Favorite movie. It's not like they like the movie a lot. They say it's their favorite movie of all time. And then, you look and the reviews are, 5.4 on IMDb, and it's like, what are you going to do? You try your best.
Well, I have a lot of. Obviously, I haven't kept up with you, so I don't have 11 movies on DVD, but I've got a number of them.
Yeah.
And was willing to try and schedule a class day of showing movies, but it's not going to work out this semester.
Yeah.
But that's awesome. Let's see. Any other questions? Yeah, Lou.
What was the worst thing that happened to you since you came to LA?
Well, that's a tough one, man. I mean, besides my divorce, I guess. Let me think. Let's say business-wise. Oh, business-wise, no. Yes, business-wise is without question the banking crisis of '08, and I will tell you that. Right before then, we had that money set up for Love and Dancing to go through roadside attractions, like it was all financed. I had another film going, a movie called The Hero of the Underworld that I ended up making last year. But now, mind you, that was '08, so I ended up 7 years later making the dang movie, or 6 years later, and to a much lower scale. And I had Lakeshore. They were going to option a script of mine. That was called Girls Just Want to Have Guns. It was kind of a vigilante female action flick, and all three of those deals fell out. Now, when I tell you that I had been doing very well that year, and altogether those three projects probably, now this was like in August, that was probably going to put an extra $300,000 to $400,000 in my pocket. Every single one of them fell apart. And I think to look back to that, like I was just telling somebody recently, it was like one of them fell through, and it's like, well, at least I have the other two. And then it was like two of them fell through, and it was like, well, at least I got this one. And then it was all three disappeared due to the immediate fear in the country and lack of money and lack of banks financing. That was the key. There was no bank financing. The two of those deals out of the three, everything except the Lakeshore, was going to be bank financed. And boom, banks stopped giving loans. There goes me. So that was the worst. Yeah.
So, my question for you is, Tom, how do you spend the bulk of your day or your week? Is it in raising money? Is it in writing screenplays? Is it in, preparing a role? How do you break down your time as a hyphenate?
Well, I think it's all falls under the umbrella of development. First off, I just finished a film 3 weeks ago, and then I was in camp. So this year has been nuts. I mean, I started pre-production a little before the end of the year. Then I was in pre-production, and then I was in production. Then I think I had a 4-day break, and then went to camp. And then I spent 2 weeks there, and I just got back. So I have had no time to do anything else. So now I'm reorganizing and going, okay, what am I focusing on now? Right now I'd say development falls under the category. Funny enough, I am doing a project that's a commission script for China. An action script over there. But lately I haven't been doing much commission writing at all. I just, I kind of put that off to the side because I've been so focused on other stuff. But I'm developing this project, and at the same time, like I'll give you an example of everything I got going on. Like, the script in China is over here. I'm developing this project with these SNL people. I have one film that I just sold, the Hear the Underworld film, that I have to deliver now, which delivery is a big process. And then I have another documentary film that I dug up and sold to the same distributor that I also have to deliver. Then I have another film called Fairhaven that I shot last year that we're trying to sell. So I'm actively reaching out to people to sell it. Then I have this TV show called Midtown that we are now, it's airing on 4 digital cable networks in the United States. We're trying to, 1, acquire more, and 2, expand the market in the United States. So acquire more internationally, expand the market in the United States. So all of that stuff is on my plate, on top of people calling me and saying, hey, can you find financing for this? Can you consult with me for this or whatever? So all of that stuff is, that's it. I mean, like, after this, I have a call at 1 p.m. What time is it? So it's about an hour and a half from now, with a distributor that I met over in Cannes that's going to take our show and put it on Hulu and Amazon Prime. Then tonight I have a consulting call. So like that on top of this. Now, in the meantime, it's all going to be spent on delivery of those 2 films I told you about, some emails about Fairhaven, and some phone calls to see if I can follow up and get a sale there, and then working on the script, which is going to be just going through, but making notes and trying to get it better and in better shape. And at the same time, this morning started with me delivering the commercial ads for next week's airing of Midtown on Tough TV. That's all I do.
Awesome.
And by the way, mind you, I got 2 kids, but I start at 9, because it's usually post dropping them off, and I will be going, like, after they go to sleep at night, I don't stop, it's like I go to sleep, and then I work, till about midnight, that's when I stop. So it's not like I go 9 to 5, and then I'm amped, but it allows, it's great being self-employed and have the certain freedom that I go, okay, I want to go out to lunch right now, I could just leave and go to lunch, or I want to go see a movie tonight, I can, but I do work my butt off. I'll work till sometimes 1 or 2 in the morning, just nonstop, editing, doing things, making phone calls, whatever, just to keep going.
Awesome. Awesome. Yes. Yeah.
Hey, it's Todd again. Can I get in touch with you when I get down there?
Wait, it went in and out. Say it again?
I said, can I get in touch with you when I get down there?
Can he meet with me when he gets here?
Yeah.
Okay. Sure, yeah, but the problem is I go back and forth from New York to LA, and so it depends on which coast I'm at. Rex is a friend, and so I would do it as a favor. I will say that I used to nonstop, everybody that emailed me, sure, let's have lunch, and then I'd end up paying for lunch and things like that, so it was ridiculous. I mean, they'd contact me, and then they'd make me pay for lunch, but So normally when I do that, I had to put a limit on it, and now it's like it's $300 to sit with me and give you advice. But it's like, as a favor to Rex, sure, reach out to me and I'll try to meet up with you for lunch. As long as you don't make me pay, we're good.
He'll make me
I'll pay
pay.
for myself. Just don't make me pay for the whole lunch.
Tom will make me pay.
Yeah, I would. I'll send the bill to Rex.
I'll end up with a bill and I won't be
pay
happy.
for him. Yeah.
I mean, I'm asking for your help, so I'll pay for your lunch.
Good.
All right. Well, I think a lot of people, do have that question. In other words, is there an avenue that they could be in touch, or somehow, like Facebook or something, where they can just ask a question? But your time, your time is valuable, and I want to make sure that people understand that too, who are listening to this on YouTube and everything else. So I'm glad that's good.
Great. A couple things is I do pretty much everybody that emails me from reading my book, and I get probably maybe 7 or 8 emails a week on the book still to this day. Either just saying they loved it or saying they loved it and have a question. And I try to answer every single one of them. If I'm feeling, like I want to type a little bit more, I always say, or if the question is a little bit more detailed, I say, could you write a review of the book online? Because apparently my publisher always makes me say that, because apparently that's how Amazon ranks the books or something like that. So I say, go. I mean, like, if you want me to answer questions, just please write a review. I don't tell them write a positive review, write whatever the hell you want. And, obviously, hopefully it's positive. But, so that's one of the ways, I always answer questions. The other thing is that I have this thing called the Film Finance Guide, which has been taken off. I did it with a guy named Jason Brubaker, and it's an all audio thing, and it's got presentation and stuff like that, and documents, and that's like a $100 thing that they go online, and we've never had one return of it ever. Every single person, it's a money back guarantee, and every single person has kept it. And then I'm trying to think what's the other way. The other way is contact me for consulting, but I'm just doing less and less of that now. I'm just I'm just so busy that it's really tough. I love trying to reach out and help people and help their movies. Always happy to try to do it, but at the same time, if I'm making a movie, it's tough. And gosh, there's people that email me about Bankroll. I'll email them 3 months later, and I'm so sorry. I just did a film, but here's the answer to your question.
Well, I think I appreciate you saying that. A friend of mine who's a very prolific producer said, think about how long it takes to read a script. So let's say 2 hours. And he goes, next to my chair, my bed, I've got a stack of screenplays that I have to get through. And now you come up and say, when you read my screenplay, what's the likelihood? I mean, the people I have here are my friends. There's only so many hours in the day.
Or business. Yeah, exactly. It's so tough, and that's really what people have to understand is that time is money, especially for somebody that works nonstop in the film business. It's tough, But everybody, I think in general, people want to help, and I always want to help, but it's just. How much time is the thing.
And given that we've got just a few minutes left, let you have the last word. I guess we'll go with that. So is there anything that you'd like to leave people, in mind? You have your book Bankroll. It's a second version of it that they can find. You've got lots of movies that can go on IMDb and find those, and then get them from the various distributors or from wherever, you can watch movies. But in terms of closing remarks, Tom, is there anything you'd like to leave people with who are watching to aim them in a direction of making their dreams come true?
I would say, try to invest in learning as much as you can. Whether it's, yes, thank you for promoting Bankroll, and I mentioned the Film Finance Guide, great. Whether it's that, whether it's anything else, Dove Simmons' book, From Real to Deal, was one of the first books that I read that I held, that I said, this has got me to a place where, I feel like I can be a producer. And bottom line is that you could learn, and that there's never a point where you don't want to stop learning and do things that you may have to, you may have to front the money to go to AFM or even Cannes or something like that. Or you may have to front the money to take a seminar from somebody. But be smart about it. Try to research where you're going and what you're doing there, but don't be afraid to invest in yourself to learn more and more. And then once you've done that, make things. I used to have a newsletter, and it's one of these things that I can't do anymore. It's again, there's a lot of people in the film business that I say maybe don't be skeptical of, because a lot of them have a lot to offer, but they're only educators. They're not filmmakers. They haven't produced a film in 20 years and they're writing books about producing. And it's like, or they've never produced a film and they're writing books about producing. And the bottom line is that, they're educators and they're filmmakers. I am a filmmaker. I am a producer. I'm an actor, and I'm working out, nonstop. So I used to have this newsletter and I sent it out. I can't do it anymore. But at the end of it, I used to say, make movies. And I would say that. And I would say it again still. Not just make movies, make TV. I came from MIP. There were more buyers than there were sellers at MIP. That's an important distinction to know, because the film business is sometimes saturated, but the TV, there were more buyers than sellers that were looking for documentaries, factual content, series, web series, short form content. It's like, so make stuff. If you have something, if you have an idea, that's one thing, and an idea is nothing. I mean, it's great for getting it going, but have content. If you have content, good content, you could sell it and you could continue to make money and be successful in this business.
Awesome. Well, I thank you for your time, and I thank you for being here and sharing your thoughts and your expertise with us. I'm going to call you from the car when I leave just to debrief with you. If you're still at home working, you grab a moment of your time.
Yes.
But I want to thank you and appreciate you being here very, very kindly.
Thank you for all the great questions, and happy to help. Happy to hopefully give some good tips.
All right. Well, much success with the next project. I'll look forward. I want to see this new one that you just finished soon. So you'll have to keep me informed, and then I'll keep them informed. And meanwhile, have a great rest of your day. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Rex. Okay, everybody.
All right.
Take care. Thank you so much. Okay, take care.